Jupyter Notebook, formerly IPython Notebook, is a web-based interactive computational environment for creating Jupyter Notebook documents. This allows clients to execute code on a back end from a thin web layer. In this video, I want to go through the following. I want to first talk about what is a Jupyter Notebook. We're going to talk about the use cases of a Jupyter Notebook. We're going to talk about a little bit of that. And then we're going to spin up a Jupyter Notebook container with Docker, because that's the easiest way of spinning up anything, really, if you want to try anything. And then finally, we're going to work through an example of Jupyter Notebook. If you're interested, stay tuned. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Hussein, and in this channel we discuss all sorts of software engineering by example. So if you want to become a better software engineer, consider subscribing and hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. With that said, let's just jump into Jupyter Notebooks. Another form of back-end development or back-end execution, especially with Python, is a new tool that is called Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook it's exploded in usage in recent years, and it's been used by a lot of machine learning algorithm or mathematical and scientific research because of its simplicity, because of the fact that it is back-end based, right? And we're going to talk about this, right? If you're familiar with our courses, Python in the backend, we did exactly the same thing as well, right? So let's in this lecture we will describe the what is a Jupyter Notebook, and we'll explain what is the meaning of this tool and what does it do, what's its benefits, and so on. All right, so the first thing we want to talk about is, before we jump into the Jupyter Notebook, we wanted to talk about the front end versus back end execution. What's the difference, right? Because we need to understand why Jupyter Notebook was invented. Okay, front end execution or front end development. Let's take Python as an example, right? So you would, in order to write Python code, what you want usually to do is you have to have a text editor, a proper text editor, PyCharm or Visual Studio Code, right? You have to install, obviously, the packages, Python 3 point something, and you have to write this code, and you have to execute it on the same machine, right? That is you running your code in. So that's essentially the front-end execution of Python, okay? And that is okay. However, sharing code with some other developers, right? They have to take the same baggage that you have done as well, which is the fact that you have installed these requirements, these packages. They have to have the same exact environment. Otherwise, the code might not execute as well. Okay. Back-end execution or back-end development, on the other hand, it says, you know what? I have this code. Send it on the back end and execute it somewhere. You have no idea. You might know the server. You might not know the server. It could be an actual physical server, could be a virtual machine, could be a Docker container. You don't really care, and that's the beauty of this, because execution things at the server, you take off that baggage of, the things that we have done in the courses, like we have to install Python, have to install these requirements, you have to make sure all these packages are installed, you have to have the right environment for it, all right? Certain execution, the CPU, all these resources is consumed from your laptop or your machine that you're running the code in, versus if you imagine you have a huge chunk of code that you're running, that will take a lot of your resources essentially. Okay, backend execution just takes that all on the server. Okay, all you have to do is just have a very small client, right? And you can ask the server, hey, execute this for me. Okay, so that's the difference between front end and back end execution. Okay, so Jupyter Notebook is essentially a server-side execution tool over the HTTP protocol. right? Simple enough. That's like the same thing we did with the Tornado app that we have written in the Python course, right? So we did, look, we built a web server, and then we have code, Python code, execute at the back end, okay? And what is delivered to us is essentially a pure HTTP protocol, okay? And then since it's HTTP, any literally client, especially browsers, are great with HTTP, right? Mobile applications, anything that can talk to HTTP, and then you can essentially deliver output from your execution, from your server side, from your backend execution over that HTTP protocol to your client, okay? So another benefit of the Jupyter Notebooks, like you have a lot of outputs out of the box. So this browser-based or app you can open the app and then say, hey, I want you to execute this code and output a table for me or output a chart. Okay, this makes it really simple for scientists, right, to write code and then just don't deal with logic of outputting all this stuff, right? So they have all this out of the box, which simplifies a lot of things. You can get things done more quickly. You don't really have to be a full-fledged developer to know how to output certain things. This supports charts, tables, simple text, markup, markdown, markdown languages, HTML, all these kind of stuff, right? So you can have different outputs as well. And that's the cool thing about it. Okay, so Jupyter Notebook works on the concept of cells. You will have a notebook, and each notebook have a cell. A cell could be a code that you execute and has an output. It could be a raw text that you can just mark up, right? It could be also a markdown language, which is like a similar to HTML. It's like stripped down HTML thing. So where you can actually show images, you can show text, you can show bold things, you can just have everything there. Okay, so it's just like raw text. Okay, the beauty of this, right, Jupyter Notebook, is it is like someone sat down and wrote this Jupyter tool, and all we have to do is just execute and consume these notebooks, right? And what we have here in this case, essentially, thin clients, browsers, mobile applications. So you can just go to your iOS and Android and download the Jupyter Notebook app, and you can execute Python right on your phone. It's not on the phone, it's executing somewhere else, but you can get this beautiful output immediately, right? You can write code that execute on the server and talk to a Amazon Lambda function that talks to your Alexa, and makes it do something and outputs a result, right? So you can do all kind of sort of things right from your mobile phone or the browser. So that's essentially have the ability to have thin clients instead of installing all these large Python packages on your phone, which is obviously not possible. Okay, another thing supported on Jupyter Notebook is not only Python execution, there are multiple kernels. And kernels, think of as actually like a programming languages execution that the Jupyter Notebook supports, right? Main thing is Python. It can support JavaScript, I think C# and Go and other languages as well. So people are authoring more and more kernels to execute at the backend. So if you're not like a Python developer, you're interested in other languages, you still can use Jupyter Notebook to execute things on the server, okay? One of the major things that is being used is actually machine learning, right? Jupyter Notebook is being used a lot in training neural networks, right? Because that's a beauty, right? I want to write them. I have this 10,000 images of cat. I want to build a model. I want to train a model to recognize a cat, okay? And here's what cat looks like, right? So this is like 10,000 pictures that go and train, all right? And since it's a very compute and GPU and CPU heavy operation, you want to execute that on the server, not on your phone, okay? And that's where back-end development comes into play, right? Jupyter Notebook allows you to do that. You don't have to use it. You can write your own Tornado app or any web server that can execute at the backend as well. So that's what I want to explain here. Okay, Jupyter Notebook is just a tool that have been built as a back-end development as well. You can build your own if you want to, but it's very simple just to use it. And we're gonna use it in the next lecture. So we're gonna learn how to install this Jupyter Notebook, and we're gonna write a few apps. All right, guys, see you in the next lecture. Hey guys, in this lecture we will learn how to install, actually no, there's no installation here, it's just like how to run a Jupyter Notebook in a Docker container. So that's like the simplest way to install or run a Jupyter Notebook in a container, a Docker container. You don't have to have anything like install Python, you don't have to worry about requirement, nothing, all right? So just install Docker. If you have Docker installed, even a remote machine or your machine, running these commands will get you up and running with a Jupyter Notebook right away. Okay, so all we have to do is like make sure that you have Docker here. Okay, I do. If you go to the command prompt and you type Docker, make sure you have it. And you can install Docker for your Mac, Windows, and Linux, and it's supported on all platforms. Okay, once you have Docker installed, all you have to do is go Docker run, and then Jupyter /minimal -notebook. That will install the basic stuff just to run a container that has a Jupyter Notebook. Okay, mine will run really fairly quick because I have run it before. Yours might take a while to download the image and then run all that stuff, but once you have that running, you'll essentially have it running. Okay, I'm gonna stop that again, and I'm gonna execute it again, but this time I'm gonna actually add a port to expose that container port to my host machine here. Okay, so all I have to do is like do -p, and since the default port is 8888, I'm gonna expose it on the same port, 8888 dash. Okay, just doing that will now give me access to access that Jupyter Notebook using the browser, which is essentially my machine name. Okay, 8888. Okay, if I do that, I am good to go, right? However, this obviously is giving, you need a password to get that. And if you notice, the password was given to us here, okay, through a token. Okay, so that's essentially the token that you need, right? If you copy that thing and just add it at the end of your URL, you are in. Okay, and obviously let's make sure, as usual, we want to make sure that we can create a notebook. Okay, let's go new, and then we're going to create a basic range 30 for I in list. Let's make sure that our actually notebook works, and looks like it is, right? So this has been a lecture where you can install or run actually a Docker container that has Jupyter Notebook in it. We're gonna see you that you have, now that you have a Jupyter Notebook running. Let's move to the next lecture where we actually do stuff with that. Hey guys, in this lecture we will put the Jupyter Notebook to use, and I just like thought of a quick use case as an example where we're gonna build, think of it like as a notebook or a page where we're gonna use different functionality of the Jupyter Notebook, where we will show some markdown like the logo of the Twitter. Okay, and what we essentially will do a simple web page that will ask the user for its name, and then after they log in, they will enter a bunch of tweets and then store them in memory, and then we're gonna turn around and display those tweets as a simple way, and then we will do like another way of displaying these tweets in a tabular format, showing you the power of the Jupyter Notebook, right? So this visualization thing. Okay, and in the process, we'll learn how to install packages on the back end. So let's get started. I have a folder here called Twitter. I want to essentially start notebook. Brand new notebook. Brand new notebook. All right. So new Python 3, let's call it Twitter. And the first thing we want to do is I'll show you the concept of cells. So every notebook consists of one or more cells, and each cell has a type. It could be either a markdown, which is this language, if you think about it, that allow you to annotate your text with rich format. Put images, videos, right? Essentially HTML, but very stripped down. Okay, so learn more about the markdown in Wikipedia. You can know all about it, but it's a very compact formatting essentially. So for example, I'm gonna turn this cell into a markdown this way, and then I'm gonna do a header. This is my Twitter app. Okay, this is how you do a header. One means it will just do like put it as a header. If you don't do this hashtag, you'll just get a normal text, right? So do one, it's slightly bigger. Do two, slightly smaller. Three, subheader, and so on. Okay, so let's just do one here, and I'm gonna put an image. To do an image, you can do it. This is the same thing as the URL, where it's you start with a bracket and you say the image name, which is the title. Let's call it Twitter. It could be anything you want, Twitter image, and then you do a bracket, right? And then follow it up with a parentheses and the URL for the image or the link. Okay, if you do, like I have the URL taken from Wikipedia here, I just pasted here. Okay, and to execute this thing, you just hit run. And you can see this turned into an actual URL. I don't really want to show it as a URL. I want to actually show that image. And to do that, it's very simple. Just follow it up with a bang. Okay, and that will actually retrieve and display this thing for you. Cool. Cool. All right. So let's add another cell here, and we'll ask the user for its name, for their name. Okay. Enter your name, sir, or madam, right? Or they. And enter your name, and then we say, yeah, name equal input. That will ask the user for their name. Let's try run, and look at that. We can enter our name, but we didn't actually print that, right? So how about we do another cell, which is a code. It says print hello name. Then we have to do an F here. Did I do the right? I think I did. Right? We do run, and we're welcoming the user. Very simple thing, right? You can interact. As you can see, this building blocks like Lego, right? You can just put multiple stuff into and do cool stuff with it. Okay, let's do one more cool thing here. Let's create an array tweets. Right? I'm gonna be fancier here and create like a header of this tweet. Like think of it as like a double array. Okay, so this will be I don't know, ID, so number tweet ID, and then the tweet itself. How about that? Makes sense, right? And with that said, I'm gonna create a tweet counter, which is that's our ID. And how about you zoom in so you guys can see, right? That's actually better, I think. All right, so what we're gonna do is ask the user for the tweet, right? While true. Okay, while true, infinite loop, and we'll ask print enter your tweet. All right, and then after we do that, we ask the user for the tweet input, and then essentially just append. Oh, we forgot the count. Tweet count equal tweet count plus 1. We just add 1 to that tweet, and then we go ahead and append it to the tweets array, right? Which is a tweet count and tweet. Looks good. All right, and then how do we exit this infinite loop, right? We need just like, I don't know, anything like -1 to exit, whatever, right? And if the tweet is equal -1, then just literally break this thing. And I think we're done, right? We have a nice loop here. We can ask the users, we'll obtain the number of tweets. Let's go ahead and insert a new cell below where we will print these tweets, right? So for t in tweets, literally printy, and let's do run all. My name is Hussein. Tweet first, second tweet, third tweet, fourth tweet. We'll be asking forever, right? -1. I'm done. And then we turn around and printed everything. All right, guys. With that said, let's go ahead and show you how to display this as a table using the Python Jupyter Notebook. Let's do that. Below, I will go ahead and use a library that is called IPython to display. And from that, I'm going to import two things, HTML and display. All right. Let's zoom in here so you can see. And from that, I'm going to import a library. And I'm gonna get an error here, but that's okay. I want to show you how this actually works. Okay, Tabulate is a library that actually print tables, but I don't have this installed, and we're gonna show you how to install this library on the notebook. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm gonna do is basically I'm gonna display and return the result as HTML, and I'm gonna do tabulate to tabulate. And then we will take the tweets array and then table format. The format will be HTML, and that should take care of that. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. And the obvious error that we get is no module tabulate has been found. So how do we install tabulate? We know how to install things, right? Pip install. But I am on the client. I'm on my mobile phone. Right. By the way, you can just install the mobile phone Jupyter Notebook and execute this very similar. We are in a browser, right, guys? This is the beauty of thin clients. So how do I install pip? So I'm gonna go ahead and answer the cell above that, and I'm gonna do pip install tabulate. Obviously, that won't work because we need to follow that up with, because pip is not recognized as a command, right? But this is, right? So this tells the Jupyter Notebook, oh, I want to execute this. Go ahead and do that, right? So let's go ahead and run all of that stuff now. Asking me for my name, sir. And then tweet 1, tweet 2, second, third, done. And then we printed everything, and look at that. It's actually installing that stuff, collecting, tabulate, everything, the successful install, and we run that stuff, and we printed all of that here. So hope that makes sense, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave you here, and then see you in the next lecture. All right, go take this notebook knowledge and build cool stuff with it. All right, so this has been another way of Python development on the back end using Jupyter Notebook.